What's good? What's good? It's the one and only, but what do I know? Boxing coming back at y'all with another one, man. So, man, I had to do this video, bro. And I did a video like this similar, but again, it was when my page first started. So, it didn't get a lot of, views or whatnot. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about what I feel like is some of the big issues with the sport of boxing today. Now, as a lot of people know, like, it's just a lot that's been going on. Even when I made this video, I made the video before Showtime had even left the boxing platform, and it's just it's kind of like just heartbreaking that two of the biggest networks that put on for boxing is now no longer with us, which was HBO and Showtime. One of the boxers said it was a rumor that HBO was coming back, but I'd have to see it to believe it. I don't know if it was Shakur or like Rolly or somebody, but anyways, so I wanted to go ahead and just discuss some of the issues that I see to it that I feel like have played a major part in the sport. Now, a lot of people want to blame, how Floyd Mayweather came and messed up the game, but that is part. You could partially put some of that on Floyd holding on to his oath, but that's not the only reason why. Because I'm gonna tell you something, but believe it or not, and I definitely can, I can show you proof if I need a video for this. But it was ducking going on before people started criticizing Floyd. A lot of people want to make it out to seem like Floyd Mayweather was the only fighter that was avoiding certain fights. Nah. Almost pretty much. Well, I mean, truth be told, well, I ain't even gonna go there. I was gonna say, truth be told, pretty much every one of your favorite fighters has avoided somebody at some point. But we don't even have to get into that part. We can, but I will say it's definitely been fighters all the way back to Sugar Ray Leonard that avoided certain fighters. And if you know, you know. If you don't, well, just I'll be glad to tell you in a separate video. All right. But I said that to say we can't just put all of it on Floyd. But one of the things that I was thinking about is just like the amount of pay-per-view fights that we have to pay for now, which shows that the market in boxing is just, or not even the market, not so much, and it's not even so much as boxing. It's more so like with the PBC. The PBC, it looks like they're coming to an end. I'm just gonna be honest with you, because the amount of fights that we have to pay for now is actually ridiculous, bro. I was looking back at just stuff like like fights that we got, big fights that we got to watch for free, and it seems like it just seems like those days are over with just regular championship boxing without having to pay for it. Like, just like, I mean, think about it, bro. Like, I remember like getting like Kelly Pavlik. This is just all past 2010, by the way. I could definitely take it back even further, but I just didn't want to as far as like, but think about it. We got like fights like Kelly Pavlik versus Sergio Martinez, and I wrote these down. These are just fights that I could think of without even having to go like Google anything. But like Kelly Pavlik, Sergio Martinez, Andre Ward versus Carl Froch, Tim Bradley, Devin Alexander, Marcos Maidana, Eric Morales, Victor Ortiz, Andre Berto, Bernard Hopkins versus John Pascal, Vladimir Klitschko versus David Haye, Vladimir Klitschko versus Anthony Joshua. Now, well, in America, that was free. Bernard Hopkins versus Tavares Cloud, Canelo Alvarez versus Austin Trout, Nonito Donaire versus Rigondeaux, Danny Garcia, Zab Judah, Adrian Broner, Paulie Malignaggi. And a lot of people might not think highly of that, but bro, the way that fight was promoted, that fight in today's time, right now, that fight would have very much so. You would be crazy to think that fight would have not have been on pay-per-view. The way they promoted Adrian Broner and Paulie Malignaggi, the way those two promoted that, I mean, that was one of the best promoted fights past 2010. Like, that was one of the best, But Adrian Broner versus Marcos Maidana, Terrence Crawford versus Yuriorkis Gamboa, Wilder versus Stavern, 2. I was talking about 2, but 1 and 2 were not pay-per-view, but 2 was just way more exciting. Not saying that 1 wasn't, but 2 was just way more exciting. Wilder versus Luis Ortiz, 1. Adrian Broner versus Mikey Garcia. Kell Brook versus Errol Spence. Like Tyson Fury versus Vladimir Klitschko, you know, like Wilder versus Dominic. Like, we just had so many great fights, bro. Fights that are actually better than a lot of these fights that are on pay-per-view nowadays, bro. Like, think about it. Like, you got like Crawford, you know, and again, that's the reason why I feel like the reason why I know something is going on with the PBC's budget, because HBO was doing the same thing towards the end of their run. They were throwing a lot of fights that should not have been on pay-per-view. They were throwing them on pay-per-view. Crawford versus Postal, Crawford versus Khan, you know, like those are fights that should not have been on pay-per-view. In my opinion, I don't know how many people are gonna agree with this, but bro, just compared to the fights that I was just naming earlier, and I get it, I understand the business. Some of these guys are more marketable than some of the names that I mentioned with the free fights that we got. But bro, come on, like, bro, in my opinion, I'm just gonna be honest, I don't think Spence versus Ugas should have been on pay-per-view. I'm just gonna be honest with you, bro. I never thought that was a pay-per-view fight. That was one of them Showtime Championship boxing matches that we should have gotten, right? Plant versus Benavidez. Love them both, you know, and don't get it twisted, love Errol Spence to death. I love him to death. I'm a big supporter, but I just don't think that fight should have been on pay-per-view. Plant versus Benavidez, that fight should not have been on pay-per-view. A highly anticipated matchup, but their names are not big enough for that fight to be on pay-per-view. That fight should not have been on pay-per-view. Benavidez versus Andre should not have been on pay-per-view. Great fight, but should not have been on pay-per-view. And you newcoming boxers, you up and newcoming boxing fans, you guys won't agree with me, but the boxing fans that's been around for the longest, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So this is more catered towards not the Johnny Come Lately boxing fans. I'm talking about the original, the boxing fans that's been there. Y'all know what I'm talking about when I say these fights should not have been on pay-per-view. You know, Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia, to me, should not have been on pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? Wilder versus Helenius should not have been on pay-per-view. That Charlo doubleheader that was in 2020? Was that 2020? I think it was 2020. That Charlo doubleheader, should not have been on pay-per-view. Tank versus Hector Garcia should not have been on pay-per-view. Tank versus Isaac Cruz should not have been on pay-per-view. Tank versus Rolly Romero should not have been on pay-per-view. All right, like those, like, you know, and don't get it twisted. Like, I can name a lot of Canelo fights that should not have been on pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, the fact that I don't even know if I said this, but bro, we got Canelo Alvarez versus Austin Trout for free, bro. Like, that was a great anticipated matchup, bro, like that we got for free. Canelo versus Jermell Charlo should not have been on pay-per-view. Canelo versus Kovalev should not have been on pay-per-view. Canelo versus Chavez Jr. should not have been on pay-per-view. Canelo versus Amir Khan should not have been on pay-per-view. Canelo versus Leo Smith should not have been on pay-per-view. Canelo versus Alfredo Angulo should not have been on pay-per-view. Like, those are, like, you know, those are fights that, like, bro, like, we should not have paid for those fights, bro. Like, I'm just gonna be 100. Those fights we should not have had to pay for. You know what I'm saying? We was getting Leo Santa Cruz versus Abner Maris, like those type, like, man, you know, those fights were free and those were great fights. You know what I'm saying? But you know, it's just a lot of things that's wrong with the sport. And this is where I stated this before, but you know, going back to the whole, we can't blame everything on Mayweather. This is why I say that, right? Okay, so a long time ago, Mayweather actually stated that, bro, a lot of these boxers are getting paid too much, and he got like nothing but criticism had came his way, because, you know, people were saying that he was hating and all this type of stuff, right? Well, he's actually telling the truth, and this is why I feel like why boxing is going on a decline, and why we have to deal with so much BS in boxing, right? Well, these boxers are getting paid so much, and don't get it twisted. I'm all for boxers getting you know, living well. I want I don't want to see no boxer just, you know, having to, you know, living in a less than great conditions after they, you know, retire and stuff, because these guys deserve they deserve to be well off. But anyways, you got fighters getting paid millions and millions of dollars to fight Joe Blow, right? Or to fight a less, a competition that's not really, feasible, right? So they get paid so much money. First of all, where is their incentive to fight like a big name when they're getting, they're comfortable with the money they're making fighting Joe Blow, right? But secondly, all right, so because they're getting paid to fight so much, now they can't fight as much, right? If they were getting paid, well, I'm not even gonna get that. If they, because they're getting paid so much, now they can't fight as much because they're not gonna step in the ring making less than what they're normally used to getting. So now, because they're getting paid so much, they can't fight as much, right? So now, because they can't fight as much, now O is a lot more significant than what it would be if they were fighting 3 times a year, right? Because now they're only fighting once every year and a half, damn near. So now a loss on their record is a lot more significant, right? Because they're not fighting as much, right? So now, because a loss is a lot more significant, now they don't want to take the risk in fighting big fights, because now, unlike how it was back then, these guys aren't fighting 2 to 3 times a year, which means that once they lose, they go all the way down. It'll take forever, because they're only fighting once a year. It'll take forever for them to get back up to that where they were at, right? A loss is a lot more detrimental, right? So they don't want to take that risk. And guess what? Guess who ends up suffering out of all of it, right? The fans. We the consumers, especially us hardcore. I don't care about you casuals. I'm spitting for the hardcore boxing fans. We are the ones that have to suffer for this, and that's just facts. That's just what it is. These fighters are not these fighters, and especially, like, I'm just gonna be 100, bro. Like, for the longest I didn't like saying this, but especially the PBC fighters. That was always my biggest issue with the PBC. Even when I was trying to ride for them, my biggest issue with them was the fact that these guys are not active enough. These guys are like, bro, it is no reason why Tank Davis, who fought last year January on a fight that should not have been on pay-per-view, him versus Hector Garcia, that should not have been a pay-per-view fight. But he fights in January, then turns around and fights in April, and then we ain't heard from him since. And it's about to be April again. Like, bro should have been able to fight 4 times last year. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, it's no reason that, bro. This is what's wrong with the sport of boxing, bro. It's just what's wrong. These fighters are just getting. And I don't want to say they're getting. I hate saying that, because they deserve to live great in life, and I want them to live great in life. But it's like, bro, these fighters they obviously, bro, they don't have the funds to keep funding these fighters, because, bro, all of these fights are going on pay-per-view that should not be pay-per-view fights. That should not be pay-per-view fights, and I'm just being 100 with that, bro. The only fight I felt like last year that should have been on pay-per-view was Tank versus Ryan Garcia. And the numbers back that up, to be 100, because I don't think nobody else last year outsold them. Tank versus who did Canelo fight in May of last year? I can't remember who he fought. Oh, John Wright. That one, I don't think that was on pay-per-view. But but Tank versus Ryan Garcia was the only fight, in my opinion, that should have been on pay-per-view last year. The only fight. And truth be told, if it was 2010, that fight would not have been on pay-per-view. Because neither one of them has the resume to back up what, to justify that. But they do have the fan base, so, it is where you can't knock that. But that's the only fight that I feel like should have been on pay-per-view last year. But that's the problem with boxing, bro. Like, these guys are not active enough. They're not, so it's just, now they want to pick and choose. They don't want to take the risk. I mean, it is what it is. That's my thoughts. All right. This is a new segment of what I'm doing. This is called My Thoughts. This is what I feel, bro. And what I feel is that's what's wrong with boxing. These guys need to get more active. They need to find. I don't know what I don't know what more the PBC can do, but they need to find something, man, because this right here ain't it. And it's not just the PBC, it's all of them, but I'm just pointing them out because their fighters are like the most the most inactive. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. But what do I know? Actually, wait, you know what? Before I even end this, let me go ahead and actually talk about the rest, because that is one side of it. But I am missing out, and I will be oblivious to put out, like, to not mention the fact that, bro, boxing has a lot of issues with promoters and networks as well. Now, a lot of people like to talk about how, well, the UFC, the MMA, they fight each other, like they all fight it. Actually, no, the MMA has kind of like the same thing boxing has, except for, you know, they're broken up to Bellator, the UFC, you know, Rise and Star. They got all the that's their version. It's just the UFC platform is so big that, yeah, you know, all those guys do fight each other, right? But, you know, that's some of the issues. That's some of the biggest issues that boxing has too. You got so many belts. Oh my gosh, you got so many belts, and then you have like one fighter that might be signed with this promotion who has a deal with this network. Then you have another top fighter in his same weight class who has another belt that's signed with this promoter, and that's signed to this that has a deal with this network. So that makes it that much harder, because now not only is like, okay, well, we're not with the same promotional company. These guys, like, now granted, promotional companies they'll either work together. Here's the thing about it. They'll work together when the fight is huge, or they'll work together when the fight is small. But the in-between, which is the fights that we normally get on a regular, that's the ones that they don't work with each other on, right? You have like so many great fights that I would love to see. I would love to see Tank Davis versus I would say Devin Haney, but Devin Haney can work with virtually anybody. Devin Haney is one of those rare fighters that could actually work with anybody. But you got I would love to see Teofimo versus, well, no, matter of fact, let me give a better example. I would love to see for the sake of this argument, I would love to see Tank versus Shakur Stevenson, right? But you have Shakur Stevenson, who is signed to ESPN and with Top Rank. Tank Davis is with the PBC on Amazon Prime now. Top Rank or Bob Arum, who is the owner of Top Rank, and Al Heyman, who owns the PBC, don't see eye to eye. They now it makes it hard for them to they don't want to do business with each other. So more than likely the fighters won't. Now it is rare occasions where when two fighters, well, not no rare occasion. Let me state this at all times. When two fighters really want to fight, they will fight. Like when two fighters really want to fight, that fight can happen. Because Deontay Wilder was signed to the PBC. I don't know if he still is, but he was signed to the PBC. While Tyson Fury was co-promoted by Top Rank, but they still got that fight done, right? So it is, Mayweather versus Pacquiao, right? When two fighters really want to fight, they can make it. Another one, Terrence Crawford and Sean Porter. That was a situation where Sean Porter was mandatory or whatnot. But it can happen. But the problem is it does not happen that often at all. And that's like a major issue with boxing. We don't get the fights that we really deserve. Like we have to. It's just so many obstacles that prevents these big fights, man. And I know Golden Boy is talking about or trying to make a way for all of these promoters to get together. You know what I really miss, bro? I really miss when the PBC was with Golden Boy. Man, that was like an unstoppable force, bro. I mean, at the time, it still was the Top Rank versus Golden Boy war. Again, back to my old boxing, my original boxing fans, y'all know what I'm talking about when it was that Cold War between Top Rank and Golden Boy. But, bro, that was back when, like, bro, oh my goodness, bro, like, Dude, when the people like Golden Boy and the PBC was together, bro, that's when they had like Canelo, Floyd Mayweather. Like that was before the PBC was really even the PBC. It was actually Golden Boy and Al Heyman. All Al Heyman's fighters were working together. Like, bro, that was just an unstoppable force, bro. I wish that they could patch things up, bro. And like, bro, think about it, bro. Like Wilder, like just they had Wilder, they had Lucas Matisse, they had Marcos Maidana, they had Adrian Broner, like they had Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, you know what I'm saying? Like they had all these great fighters, bro, under one umbrella, which that's back and go back, look, like that's back when we were getting great boxing matches. 2013 was like one of the best years for boxing in boxing history, bro. Just go back and just look at all the great fights we got when Al Heyman was with Golden Boy. But that's my rant. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. What do you feel like is the problem with boxing? I definitely want to hear it, man, because it is what it is. But this time I am out. But what do I know?